Now, back 500 years ago, I mentioned science was perhaps in its infancy. You can see the rudiments or the foundations of certain kinds of scientific investigations being done. And in physiology, in anatomy, mathematics is being revived. There's an interest in physics, how things work on the Earth. And there's a very lively interest in astronomical issues. And I want to focus on astronomy as one of the great battlegrounds in the early modern world, or in the Renaissance, as being one of the great epistemological battles, where the battle was joined between a traditional epistemology and a newly emergent or re-emergent pro-reason, pro-science epistemology. First name I want to mention is the name Copernicus. Copernicus is perhaps famous to you as the reintroducer in the modern world of the idea that the Earth is not at the center of the solar system, but rather the Sun is at the center of the solar system. So rather than having the Earth at the center of the solar system and all of the other planetary objects that we know of, including the Sun and our Moon, as satellites around the Earth being the center of the action, the Earth in the Copernican model is a satellite of the Sun, as are all of the other planets and the Moon that we know of. Now, I say that Copernicus reintroduced this hypothesis in the modern world. There were Greek astronomers who had hypothesized that close to 2,000 years earlier, but that knowledge had died out, or that hypothesis had died out throughout most of the medieval era, and Copernicus reintroduced it. He did not, however, publish this hypothesis in his lifetime because he was afraid of the consequence of his publishing the hypothesis that the Sun is at the center of the solar system. And he was afraid with very good reason. Rumor has it that toward the end of his life, when he knew he was dying, he allowed his manuscript to go to press, and he may or may not have seen a copy of it before he died himself. But this was a push-button issue, and it was treading on dangerous territory, particularly dangerous theological territory. This is an era when Europe is still largely unified under Catholicism as the dominant version of Christianity. Copernicus died in 1543. The Protestant Reformation is breaking out in various centers around Europe, and so the Catholic Church is feeling the pressure theologically from the Protestants, and of course there are lots of political issues and economic issues that are wrapped up in this great separation that was going on in the early part of the 1500s. But Copernicus, during his lifetime, did not feel comfortable advancing a radically new scientific hypothesis that displaced the Earth from being the center of the solar system. Now, why, we might ask, does it really matter to anybody theologically whether the geocentric model, Earth-centered, or heliocentered model is true or not? Why should there be theological heavy weather made of any of this? Well, there was. And one of the great lessons of the importance of this issue was driven home in the case of Giordano Bruno. Giordano Bruno was a former Dominican monk, decided that his views were not orthodox enough, left that calling, became a philosopher and scientific, very brilliant man, very fiery, very argumentative, and he was one of the early scientists and thinkers to sign on to the Copernican model, as it came to be called, the idea being that the Sun is at the center of the solar system and all of the other planets revolve around it in circles. He was arrested by the Inquisition in 1592, brought to Rome and imprisoned. Over the course of the next 7 years, he was prosecuted for heresy. He was found guilty and then executed by burning at the stake in 1600. And there were lots of issues on the table about what exactly Bruno's heresy amounted to, but one of the central issues was indeed his advocacy of the idea that the Earth is not at the center of the solar system.